Good afternoon and good evening. We are getting ready to cover the Tesla Q1 2021 earnings call. Uh, joining us today are Patrick and Mark. You should know them from the Tesla Life Show and What Drives Us Show. So, here we are.
Yeah, I'm looking for my 1.21 gigawatts.
Yes!
We should have some gigawatts coming today.
We should. Right before, in fact, let me stop and start this thing again. I don't know if the audio is checked or not. Right before all this, Patrick and I were talking about, it wasn't checked. Patrick and I were talking about the fact that this is a little earlier in the cycle than they normally go, so we were hoping that means good news, and so far it looks like it.
Yes, it does. Yeah, this is by no means a rule, but what tends to happen is if companies have poor financial data, they delay it a little bit so they can get a good story around it. And when the numbers are good, they don't need to do that, so they just pop right out.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
That's not a Tesla thing. That's just everybody on Wall Street, every publicly traded company.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have bad news, but you have a good story about how you recover from it, you try to mitigate that negative impact.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll mute that for now.
Yeah, I don't want to get a strike. I don't know if that's public domain or not.
It sounds public domain, but doesn't mean that they didn't pick a non-public domain performer or like a remix.
Yeah. Although I liked your intro music, I felt like I was playing Pikmin for a moment. I don't know if you guys ever played that game, but it's awesome.
Thank you.
And that music went yeah.
Yeah. All right, so how will I listen to see when it started? Is the question, because the mute icon for it is not on screen.
Oh.
Or, you know what I could do? I could unmute it, take it off screen, and then I'll hear it, and I'll just pop it on screen when it's ready.
There you go.
Let's do that. Plus, it's just a black screen anyway.
Right, yeah, there's not a whole lot being shown or shared right now.
And then I'll turn it down so that I can hear you guys. So, they started out immediately with money, and it was looking good, and then productions. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, you know...
scheduled to begin shortly.
There we go.
Continue to stand by.
Continue to stand by, she said.
All right, we didn't need to break in for that. We could look at the news, their letter that came out as part of this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we should probably share the letter on screen. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I can share two things.
Yeah, let me see.
And they went straight into, after that, they went into your guys' Gigafactories. And then I see this title is an autopilot. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, Mark is muted.
Let me put the... Mark muted himself? Either Mark's muted himself or he didn't pick the right audio source.
Right. I have not heard anything from Mark yet at all.
So in the show chat, I'm going to put the link to the document.
Okay.
And
yeah.
then in stream chat.
Let's get Mark going on here first before we
Howdy, everyone.
Switch over.
Today's conference will begin momentarily. Thank you.
Momentarily.
Mark,
So it's a different operator.
Mere moments to get your audio working there.
I guess we're on Musk time.
No.
Because they started with like a nice, reasonable countdown, and then they started early, and then we freaked out, and we started.
So, like at one of their events, they typically start a half hour early, but on these financial calls, I think it's going to be any moment now.
Yep. Looks like Mark's getting his audio in order. Continues to focus on V9. Hey, Zach!
Hey! I didn't know we could have people in these chats.
Oh, yes, baby. And we can see what they're talking about.
Oh, look at that. High tech. You got
high tech stuff. Yeah. I'm trying to convince them to let me do this on the Tesla Life without having to have passwords and stuff, because that's not necessary. They said it's a good idea, but they're not. I mean, because it's an edge use case for the software, so they're not trying.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yay! There's Mark. Yes, we can hear you now.
We can hear him now. Yay!
Mm-hmm.
going to say that earlier in the week, Casey posted an article that was something that Patrick would have enjoyed. It was
Yes.
about the delay in Gigafactory Berlin.
Oh, who could have ever predicted that?
Yeah.
You wrote the paperwork.
That's right.
Yeah, they know Patrick's not fooling around after that Elon Musk visit at Texas when Patrick called him and said, "Get back to work."
That's right. I did. Stop showing off. You're distracting all the construction folks. We need them building that factory. They have some
Yes.
awesome pictures in the newsletter. So,
She keeps faking me out with this, like, she comes in like they're getting ready to announce it, and she's like, we're gonna start in a minute, promise.
So,
And Zachary has joined the chat. He looks like he's the first one.
Absolutely.
I will share this document, and as soon as they start, I'll
We'll switch it.
yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Patrick's screen
Let me know
joined.
when you can see this.
We can see.
All right, cool. So yeah, this is the Q1 2021 update from Tesla. And table of contents, let's skip that. So here we go. Here's the good stuff. They operational cash flow less CapEx free cash flow of $293 million in just this quarter. So that's awesome. They reduced their debt by over $1 billion. That's pretty cool.
Wow, that's substantial.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing there is that gives them the ability to borrow, and they have cash on hand, they have Bitcoin on hand, and they didn't retire all of their debt, which is a lot of companies do that. It's better to have the cash on hand. It's easier to borrow money when you don't need it than when you do. It's good to have these banking partnerships, which they're effectively buying by taking out loans. That can actually help in a lot of areas when you want something done and you have a bank that has sway in that region. So for various reasons, companies keep banking relationships open even when they don't need to. But let's move over to the text over here on the right. While the ASPs of our vehicles declined in Q1, our auto gross margin increased. So let's talk about that. So they're lowering the price, so that's reducing the average selling price, and increasing the gross margin. That's exactly what you want to see for a business that's operating efficiently. They're able to reduce their price and make more money on each product. That way, more customers are able to come in and buy it and afford it, and they're able to make more money on it. So, I mean, anybody can drop their prices and sell more product. Any fool can do that, right? But the hard part is lowering your price and increasing your profit, which is exactly what they've done. That's a great highlight from this. They do talk about, you know what's incredible? They're doing this. They're making money. And we just talked about Berlin. They are building a factory in Europe, and they're building one on another continent at the same time. So they're investing huge amounts of money and still showing the profitability.
And
they're expanding another one.
When Gigafactory Texas was started, they decided to go big with the money they had saved and build all three portions at the same time.
Is it
Please
started?
be advised that today's conference is being recorded.
All
If you
right,
require any further assistance, please press *0. I will now hand the conference over to your speaker today, Martin Vieca, Senior Director of Investor Relations.
Thank you, Carmen, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tesla's first quarter 2021 Q&A webcast. I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Zachary Kirkhorn, and a number of other executives. Our Q1 results were announced at about 1 p.m. Pacific time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please press star 1 now if you would like to join the question queue. But before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Great, thank you. So Q1 2021 was a record quarter on many levels. Tesla achieved record production, deliveries, and surpassed $1 billion in non-GAAP net income for the first time. And we've seen a real shift in customer perception of electric vehicles, and our demand is the best we've ever seen. So this is, to be totally frank, we're used to seeing a reduction in demand in the first quarter, and we saw an increase in demand. That exceeded the normal seasonal reduction in demand in Q1. Model 3 became the best-selling mid-size premium sedan in the world. In fact, I should say the best-selling luxury sedan of any kind in the world. The BMW 3 Series was for the longest time the best-selling premium sedan. It's been exceeded by the Tesla Model 3. And this is only 3.5 years into production and with just 2 factories. For Model 3 to be outselling its combustion engine competitors, I think is quite remarkable. In the past couple of quarters, we delivered roughly 250,000 Model 3s, which translates to an annualized rate of 500,000 per year. When it comes to Model Y, we think Model Y will be the best-selling car or vehicle of any kind in the world, and probably next year. So I'm not 100% certain next year, but I think it's quite likely. I'd say more likely than not that in 2022, Model Y is the best-selling car or truck of any kind in the world. Then, with regard to full self-driving beta continues to make great progress. This is definitely one of the hardest technical problems that exists, that's maybe ever existed. And really, in order to solve it, we basically need to solve a pretty significant part of artificial intelligence, specifically real-world artificial intelligence. And that sort of AI, the neural nets need to be compressed into a fairly small computer, a very efficient computer that we've designed, but nonetheless, a small computer that's using on the order of 70 or 80 watts. So this is, I think, a much harder problem than if you were to use, say, 10,000 computers in a server room or something like that. This has got to fit into a smallish brain. I think with the elimination of radar, we're finally getting rid of one of the last crutches. Radar was really it was making up for some of the shortfalls of vision, but this is not good. You actually just need vision to work, and when vision works, it works better than the best human. Because it's like having 8 cameras. It's like having eyes in the back of your head, the sides of your head, and 3 eyes at different focal distances looking forward. This is, and processing it at a speed that is superhuman. There's no question in my mind that with a pure vision solution, we can make a car that is dramatically safer than the average person. So, but it is a hard problem because we are actually solving something quite fundamental about artificial intelligence. We basically have to solve real-world vision AI, and we are. So, and key to solving this is also having just a massive data set. So, just having well over 1 million cars on the road that are collecting data from very sort of corner case rare situations. Sort of like so many weird things in the world, like a truck carrying a truck, or a car with one example is a car, an actual example, a car with a kayak on the roof, where the kayak has a little a little weight dangling from the front of the kayak in front of the car, and yet the car must ignore this and just look at the road. So it's really quite tricky, but I am highly confident that we will get this done. So yes, this quarter, and I think we'll continue to see that a little bit in Q2 and Q3. So Q1 had some of the most difficult supply chain challenges that we've ever experienced in the life of Tesla. Insane difficulties with supply chain, with parts over the whole range of parts. Obviously, people have heard about the chip shortage. This is a huge problem. But then, in addition to that, for example, we had quite a bit of difficulty scaling drive unit production in China because we were unable to get critical engineers there because of COVID quarantine restrictions. So, which meant that Tesla worldwide was dependent on drive units made at our factory in Nevada, Gig, Nevada. So that was a very challenging situation. I think we're mostly out of that particular problem. But those are just two of many challenges. So the team's really done an incredible job of dealing with really severe supply chain shortages. So let's see, with respect to the Model S and X, there were more challenges than expected in developing the Plaid Model S, or what's called the Palladium program, which is the new version of Model S and X, which has a revised interior and a new battery pack and new drive units and new internal electronics, and has, for example, a PlayStation 5 level infotainment system. There's just a lot of issues encountered. Ensuring that the new battery was super safe was quite hard because we're packing more energy in a smaller space. So it took quite a bit of development to ensure that the battery of the new SX is safe. And we're trying to get all the details in the cars slowly for the past few months, but we're just stacking them up in the yard and just making refinements to the cars that we've built. But we do expect to ramp Model S production and start delivering them probably next month. And then to be in sort of fairly high volume production for the S in Q3, and to start delivering the Model X in Q3 as well. So I think as we ramp up, I think probably the demand for the new SX will be quite high. So it's really just going to be a question of ramping supply chain and internal production processes. So probably we're going to aim to produce over 2,000 SX per week. Perhaps, if we get lucky, upwards of 2,400 or 2,500. This again is contingent on global supply chain issues, which are just a lot of factors outside of our control here. But I do think these things will get sold, so it's just a matter of time, and then we'll be doing well over 2,000 SX per week. And it's a great car. It actually costs us less to produce, a little bit less to produce, but it is a superior product. So in conclusion, there's a lot to be excited about in 2021 and 2022. We're building factories as quickly as we can. Both Texas and Berlin are progressing well. We expect to have initial limited production from those factories this year, and volume production from Texas and Berlin next year. At the same time, continuing to ramp production of Model Y in Fremont and Shanghai. In the background, we're continuing development work on the Semi, Cybertruck, the Roadster, and other products. Thanks to everyone at Tesla who made this year a huge success. Now on to questions.
Thank you very much. We have some remarks from Zachary Kirkhorn as well.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Thanks, Elon.
Don't forget
So
the
congratulations
master
to
coin.
the Tesla team on breaking multiple records in the first quarter of 21, as Elon had mentioned, which is typically the most difficult of the year for many reasons. To summarize the quarter, I think it's best understood by three key items. First, we successfully launched and began the ramp of Model Y in Shanghai, achieving positive gross margin in the first quarter of production and receiving a great reception from the market. Second, as Elon mentioned, although we began the production process for the Model S during the quarter, we had not yet begun customer deliveries. The reduction in Model S and X deliveries from Q4 to Q1 were a meaningful headwind to free cash flows and profit generation. For example, we incurred an estimated $200 million of direct P&L impact relating to this program in Q1, the majority of which is reflected in COGS, and that's before even considering the impact of lost revenue and profits as a result of the transition. And as Elon mentioned, we expect the first deliveries to begin shortly. Third, as we continue to work through the instability of the global supply chain, particularly around semiconductors and port capacities, while the Tesla team, in partnership with our suppliers, did tremendous work keeping our factories running, we did experience high expedite costs in the quarter, and they were also higher than they were in Q4, with some minor interruptions to production over the course of the quarter. But we believe that this landscape is improving, but it does remain difficult and it's an evolving situation. If we double-click within net income, auto gross margin, excluding credits, improved sequentially and year over year. This is in spite of the cost mentions for S and X and expedites and a reduction in global ASPs, as our cost structure as a company is reducing at an even faster pace. So as we look out over the course of the year, we feel optimistic about our gross margin strength, particularly as some of these headwinds we're experiencing start to be resolved. On services and other margins, these have recovered and are trending towards profitability, aided by strength in the used car business, operational improvements in service, and additional service revenue opportunities that help absorb fixed overheads. On energy gross margins, these remained negative for a second quarter. This is driven by solar roof-related ramp costs and winter seasonality in the lease PPA business. We continue to manage through a multi-quarter backlog on Powerwall. We're working as fast as we can to increase production, and this will aid in profitability of this business as those volumes increase. On operating expenses, these increased for Q1, which is driven by our investments in technology and growth. In particular for R&D, this includes the structural battery pack and 4680 cells, investments in the new S and X, and our neural net and silicon investments. On the SG&A side, we're setting up infrastructure and support for both China and EMEA in anticipation of volume to come there. And as I've said before, our plans show that we remain on track for sustained industry-leading operating margins. Double-clicking on cash flows, we continue to generate positive free cash flows, and this was despite the significant working capital headwinds from S and X. Additionally, we are making progress reducing various forms of debt. We also invested $1.5 billion in Bitcoin during the quarter, then trimmed our position by 10%, which contributed to a small gain in our Q1 financials. Taking a step back, we've generated $8 billion in operating cash flows and $4 billion in free cash flows over the past 4 quarters. As we look forward, our plans remain unchanged for long-term growth of 50% annually, and we believe we're on track to exceed that this year as we guided to last quarter. Global demand remains meaningfully higher than production levels, and so we're driving as fast as we can to increase our production rates. As we think about Q2 and Q3, these quarters should largely be driven by execution on S and X, as we've discussed, continued ramp of Model Y in Shanghai, and the associated cost reductions of these programs. And we expect profitability and cash generation to evolve over the course of the year in line with those improvements. And then as we get towards the end of the year, our story will pivot towards the launch and ramp of our newest factories in Austin and Berlin. So there's certainly no shortage of exciting things for us to work on and look forward to. Thank you, and we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. And we'll first take retail questions from Say website. The first question is, how is Dojo coming along? Could Dojo unlock an AWS-like business line for Tesla over the next few years?
That's got to be an Elon question. Come on, Elon. Let's hear
It's a
about
good one,
the
though.
Dojo. Oh, yeah.
They're wondering how much they could say.
That was a
Yeah,
good
they're-
question, but nobody's answering.
Yeah, I'll jump
I
in
think they're-
here. So,
probably
you know,
talking
with
offline.
respect to
Actually,
Dojo,
sorry, Zach, my apologies. I was on mute.
oh, go ahead, Elon.
He's real.
So, yeah, I was just basically saying that although like right now people think of Tesla as a lot of people think Tesla is a car company or perhaps an energy company. I think long term people will think of Tesla as much as an AI robotics company as we are a car company or an energy company. I think we are developing one of the strongest hardware and software AI teams in the world. Certainly, we appear to be able to do things with full self-driving that others cannot. So, and if you look at the evolution of what technologies we developed them in order to solve the problem of self-driving. So, we couldn't find a powerful enough neural net inference computer, so we designed and built our own. The software out there was really quite primitive for this task, and so we built a team from scratch and have been developing what we think is probably the most advanced real-world AI in the world. And then it sort of makes sense that this is kind of what needs to happen because the road system is designed for a neural net computer, our brain. Our brain is a neural net computer. And it's designed, the entire road system is designed for vision with a neural net computer, which is because it's designed for eyes and a brain. And so if you have a system which has very good eyes, you can see in all directions at once, you can see 3 focal points ahead or forward, but it never gets tired. It's never sort of texting. It has redundancy, and its reaction time is superhuman. Then it seems pretty obvious that such a system would achieve an extremely high level of safety, far in excess of the average person. So that's what we're doing. Then Dojo is kind of the training part of that. So because we have over 1 million cars, and perhaps next year we'll have 2 million cars in active use, providing vast amounts of video training data that then needs to be digested by a very powerful training system. And currently, we use it's Tesla training software. It's like we developed a lot of training software, a lot of labeling software to be able to do surround video labeling, which is quite tricky. This means all 8 cameras simultaneously at 36 frames a second per camera, labeling video over time. There wasn't any tool that existed for this, so we developed our own labeling tool. Then taking it a step further, obviously the holy grail is auto labeling. So now we're getting quite good at auto labeling, where the trainers train the training system, and then the system auto labels the data, and then the human labelers just need to look at the labeling to confirm that it is correct and perhaps make edits. and then every time an edit is made, that further trains the system. So it's kind of like a flywheel that's just sort of spinning up. And really the only way to do this is with vast amounts of video data. So then we need to train this efficiently. So Dojo is really it is a supercomputer optimized for neural net training. We think Dojo will be probably an order of magnitude more efficient on say, I'm not sure what the exact right metric is, but say per frame of video. We think it'll be an order of magnitude more cost efficient in hardware and in energy usage per frame of video compared to a GPU-based solution, or compared to the next best solution that we're aware of. So then possibly that could be used by others. It does seem as though over time, I mean, just an observation, I think basically just a fact that neural net-based computing or AI-based computing is more and more of the compute stack. Conventional computing, perhaps heuristics based computing, is still going to be important, still going to be very important, but it will become, but neural net will become a bigger and bigger portion of compute. So anyway, that was a long story, but I think, yeah, probably others will want to use it too, and we'll make it available.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the second question from retail investors. The recent price changes on Solar Roof have been discouraging for customers and investors. Could Tesla share more about Solar Roof challenges and if the outlook has changed at all, i.e. 1,000 roofs per week?
Yeah, first of all, I should say that the demand for the Solar Roof remains strong. So despite raising the price, the demand is still significantly in excess of our ability to meet the demand to install the Solar Roofs. So production is going fine, but we are choked at the installation point. We did find that we basically made some significant mistakes in assessing the difficulty of certain roofs. But the complexity of roofs varies dramatically. Some roofs can be literally 2 or 3 times easier than other roofs. So you just can't have a one-size-fits-all situation. If a roof has a lot of protuberances, or if the roof the core structure of the roof is rotted out or is not strong enough to hold the Solar Roof, then the costs can be double, sometimes 3 times what our initial quotes were. So in those cases, what we've obviously offered to do is to refund customers their deposit, but what we cannot do is go and just lose a massive amount of money. We just got to provide a refund of the deposit. But that's what is I think most important about the Solar Roof situation, which I tweeted about this past week, is that we're shifting the whole sort of solar situation, so the solar Powerwall, basically solar plus battery situation, to there's only one product, basically, or there's only one configuration. Every house, we will not sell a house solar without a Powerwall. That solar could either be solar retrofit, with conventional panels put on a roof, or it can be the Tesla solar glass roof. But in all cases, it will have the Powerwall 2. Technically, it's actually a Powerwall 2 Plus, if you will. The Plus refers to a higher peak power capability. So basically, all Powerwalls made since roughly November of last year have a lot more peak power capability than the specification on the website. they have about twice the power capability, roughly. It depends on how you count power, but about twice the peak power, and about arguably twice the steady state power of the specification of the website. The energy is the same, but the power is roughly double. And all installations, all installations will have the Powerwall, and the difficulty of the installation will dramatically increase, or the difficulty of the installation will be much less. It'll be much easier because the power from the solar glass roof, or the solar panels will only ever go directly into the Powerwall, and the Powerwall will only ever go between the utility mains, but between the utility and the main power panel of the house, which means you never need to touch the main circuit breakers of the house. You never need to touch the house circuit breakers. Effectively, almost every house therefore looks the same electrically, instead of being a unique work of art and requiring exceptional ability to rewire the main panel. So this is extremely important for scalability. It's the only way to do it, really. And this also means that every solar Powerwall installation, that the house or apartment, whatever the case may be, will be its own utility. And so even if all the lights go out in the neighborhood, you will still have power. So that gives people energy security. And we can also, in working with the utilities, use the Powerwalls to stabilize the overall grid. So let's say that there's like there was in Texas, there was a peak power demand, and that peak power demand, because the grid lacked the ability to buffer the power, they had to shut down power. There's no power storage, no good form of power storage. However, with a whole bunch of Powerwalls at houses, we can actually buffer the power. So if the grid needs more power, we can actually then, with the consent, obviously, of the homeowner and in partnership with the utility, we can then actually release power onto the grid to take care of peak power demands. So effectively, the Powerwalls can operate as a giant distributed utility. This is profound. I'm not sure how many people will actually understand this, but this is extremely profound and necessary, because we are headed towards a world where, as we were just talking about earlier, where people are moving towards electric vehicles. This will mean that the power needs at homes and businesses will increase significantly. There will need to be a bunch more electricity coming somewhere. In fact, if you go to full renewable electricity, we need about 3 times as much electricity as we currently have. So these are rough numbers, but you roughly need twice as much electricity if all transport goes electric, and then you need 3 times as much electricity if all heating goes electric. So basically, this is a prosperous future, I think, both for Tesla and for the utilities. Because, and in fact, I think this will be very, if this is not done, the utilities will fail to serve their customers. They won't be able to do it. They won't be able to react fast enough. And we're going to see more and more of what we see in California and Texas, of people seeing brownouts and blackouts, and the utilities not being able to respond because there's a massive change going on with the transition to electric transport, and we're seeing more extreme weather events. This is a recipe for disaster. So it is very important to have solar and batteries at the local level at the house. In addition, it is important to have large battery storage at the utility level, so that solar and wind, which are the main forms of renewable electricity, can be that electricity can be stored, because sometimes the wind doesn't blow, sometimes it blows a lot. Sometimes it blows too much, and sometimes it doesn't blow enough. But if you have a battery, you can store the energy and provide the energy to the grid as needed. The same goes for solar, because obviously the sun does not shine at night, and sometimes it is very cloudy. And so by having battery storage paired with solar and wind, this is the long-term solution to a sustainable energy future. And as I said, this really needs to occur both at the local level and at the utility level. If it doesn't occur at the local level, what will actually be required is a massive increase in power lines, in power plants. So they have to put long distance and local power lines all over the place. They'll have to increase the size of the substations. It's a nightmare. This must occur. There must be solar plus battery. It's the only way. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. And the next retail question is, Master of Coin, can you tell us anything about Tesla's future plans in digital currency space, or when any such major developments might be revealed?
Sure. Thanks, Martin. So as I noted in our opening remarks, and we've announced previously, so Tesla did invest $1.5 billion into Bitcoin in Q1, and then we subsequently sold a 10% stake in that. We also allow customers to make vehicle deposits and final vehicle purchases using Bitcoin. And so where our Bitcoin story began, maybe just to share a little of the context here, Elon and I were looking for a place to store cash that wasn't being immediately used, try to get some level of return on this, but also preserve liquidity. Particularly as we look forward to the launch of Austin and Berlin and uncertainty that's happening with semiconductors and port capacity, being able to access our cash very quickly is super important to us right now. And, there aren't many traditional opportunities to do this, or at least that we found and in talking to others that we could get good feedback on, particularly with yields being so low and without taking on additional risk or sacrificing liquidity. And Bitcoin seemed at the time, and so far has proven to be a good decision, a good place to place some of our cash that's not immediately being used for daily operations or maybe not needed till the end of the year, and be able to get some return on that. And, I think one of the key points that I want to make about our experiences in the digital currency space is that there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic here. We're certainly watching it very closely at Tesla, watching how the market develops, listening to what our customers are saying. But, thinking about it from a corporate treasury perspective, we've been quite pleased with how much liquidity there is in the Bitcoin market. So our ability to build our first position happened very quickly. When we did the sale later in March, we also were able to execute on that very quickly. And so as we think about kind of global liquidity for the business and risk management, being able to get cash in and out of the markets is something that I think is exceptionally important for us. So we do believe long-term in the value of Bitcoin, so it is our intent to hold what we have long-term and continue to accumulate Bitcoin from transactions from our customers as they purchase vehicles. Specifically with respect to things we may do, there are things that we're constantly discussing. We're not planning to make any announcements here, and we're watching this space closely. So when we're ready to make an announcement on this front, if there's one to come, we'll certainly let you all know.
Thank you. And the fourth question from retail investors is, does Tesla have any proactive plans to tackle mainstream media's imminent, massive, and deceptive clickbait headline campaigns on safety of autopilot or FSD, perhaps specialty PR job of some sort?
I'll take this one, guys. From the safety side, I continue to say as Elon, that safety is a driving point and all. Go ahead, Elon.
I think please go ahead. I think it's perhaps worth just going through the facts of the specifically there was an article regarding a tragedy where there was a high-speed accident in Tesla, and there was really just extremely deceptive media practices where it was claimed to be autopilot, where this is completely false. And those journalists should be ashamed of themselves. Please go ahead, Lars.
Yeah, thanks, Elon. So I was just saying we're committed to safety in all our designs, and that's number one in what we do here. Regarding the crash in Houston specifically, we work directly with the local authorities, NTSB and NHTSA, wherever applicable, and whenever they reach out to us for help, directly on the engineering level and whatever else we can support. In that vein, we did a study with them over the past week to understand what happened in that particular crash, and what we've learned from that effort was that AutoSteer did not and could not engage on the road condition that as it was designed. Our adaptive cruise control only engaged when a driver was buckled and above 5 miles per hour, and it only accelerated to 30 miles per hour over the distance before the car crashed. As well, adaptive cruise control disengaged the car slowly to complete to a stop when the driver's seatbelt was unbuckled. Through further investigation of the vehicle and accident remains, we inspected the car with NTSB and NHTSA and the local police, and were able to find that the steering wheel was indeed deformed, so leading to the likelihood that someone was in the driver's seat at the time of the crash, and all seatbelts post-crash were found to be unbuckled. We were unable to recover the data from the SD card at the time of impact, but the local authorities are working on doing that, and we await their report. As I said, we continue to hold safety in a high regard and look to improve our products in the future through this kind of data and other information from the field.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to the next question from institutional investors. The first question is, proponents of alternative grid storage technologies claim that lithium-ion is unsuited for long-term storage at scale due to vampire drain. Could 4680 cells address this limitation? Is the limitation even relevant for charging the energy equation?
Yeah, just let me jump in on the vampire drain. That's definitely not the issue. A good lithium-ion cell self-discharges less than 0.001% of its energy per day. So the vampire drain is maybe not separate.
No.
Yeah.
As mythical as vampires.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the challenge with seasonal storage is your value proposition drops from hundreds of useful full cycles per year to less than maybe 10 or maybe even less than 5 cycles per year. So it's just a different type of technology, altogether that would make sense, given that it's more than an order of magnitude different use case.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a long way to go before we're dealing with seasonal technology issues. But certainly a way to deal with seasonal technology would be to have wind and solar growing on the side of more southerly latitudes, but then across a variety of longitudes. So essentially, like let's say in the U.S., for example, if there was, I'm not sure if you'll understand this, that you can actually power the entire United States with just sort of roughly a 100-mile by 100-mile grid of solar. Sometimes people don't quite understand, like, well, how much solar is needed to power the United States? Almost nothing of the surface United States required to power the United States. And this is true of almost any country in the world. The solar incidence is a gigawatt per square kilometer. This is insane. In fact, if you took the clear area, just the area, for nuclear power plants, the area that is considered not usable because a nuclear power plant is there, in most cases, if you just put solar there, it would generate more power than the nuclear power plant. This is because they typically have pretty wide clear areas. If you have, say, 25% efficient solar panels and then those are 80% efficient in how they're laid out. You're going to do about 200 megawatts per square kilometer. Therefore, 5 square kilometers is a gigawatt, which might be a typical sort of power plant. It's really not much area at all. And a lot of places can have wind and solar in the same place. So anyway, it's entirely possible to power all of Earth with a small percentage of Earth's area. And then to transmit that power through high voltage DC lines, no new technology, you don't need room temperature superconductors. This is also another myth. Room temperature superconductors, almost irrelevant in my opinion, almost irrelevant. Low cost, long distance power lines using copper or aluminum, very important. So heating is I squared R. So that's current squared times resistance. So as you increase voltage, you
Looks like we had a little technical difficulties. Casey, you getting the feedback?
do a zillion terawatts overnight.
There we go.
You've got to build the production capacity for the cells, for the battery cells, for the solar cells. You've got to put that into vehicles. You've got to put that into stationary storage packs. You've got to put that into solar panels and solar glass roofs, and you've got to deploy all this stuff. But it is certainly the case that we can accelerate this, and we should try to accelerate it. The right thing to do, I think, from an economic standpoint, and I think almost any economist would agree, is to have a carbon tax, just as we have a tax on cigarettes and alcohol, which we think are more likely to be bad than good, and we tend to tax fruit and vegetables less. The same should be true. We should tax energy that we think is probably bad, and support energy we think is probably good, just like cigarettes and alcohol versus fruits and vegetables. It's just common sense. But I guess on the plus side, I'm not suggesting anyone be complacent, but sustainable energy, renewable energy will be solved. It is being solved, but it matters how fast we solve it. And if we solve it faster, that's better for the world.
Thank you very much.
There's no question in my mind whatsoever that the energy storage problem can be solved with lithium-ion batteries. Zero. I want to be clear. Zero. I think the bias will tend to be towards iron-based lithium-ion cells. When people say lithium-ion, people think lithium must be a big constituent of the cells. It's more like 1% to 2% of the cell is lithium. The main part of the cell is the cathode. The main mass and cost in the cell is the cathode. For high energy cells, like for example, what we use in most houses have nickel-based lithium-ion cells, which have higher energy density, longer range than iron-based cells. However, for stationary storage, the energy density is not as important because it's just sitting on the ground. And so I think the vast majority of stationary storage will be iron-based lithium-ion cells with an iron phosphate cathode, technically. But I think the phosphate part is unnecessary. It's really just iron and nickel. Unnecessary in the terminology. Just think of it as iron and nickel. And there's an insane amount of iron in the world, more iron than we could possibly use, and there's also more lithium than we could possibly use. Basically, there is no shortage of anything whatsoever in iron phosphate lithium-ion cells.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next question from institutional investors, which is, you've suggested that between a 5x to 10x improvement is achievable in the automotive production versus the first Model 3 line on the first principles physics analysis. Where does Berlin sit relative to that limit?
Oh, I think we're still quite far away from it. I mean, the thing to bear in mind with production is, for those who've never done production, they just don't understand how insanely hard production is. I want to really be very, very emphatic here. Prototypes are trivial. They're child's play. Production is hard. It is very hard. Now you say production at large scale with high reliability and low cost, insanely difficult. But what Tesla achieved on the automotive side was not to create an electric car. The truly profound thing on the car side is that Tesla was the first American car company to achieve volume production of a car in 100 years and not go bankrupt. So this I basically, myself and many others at Tesla had to basically have several aneurysms to get this done. It was so hard, you have no idea. So anyway, and the thing about making a large, complex manufactured object is, let's say you have first order approximation 10,000 unique items. If even one of those items is slow, that sets your rate. Just one. Doesn't matter how so trivial. We've had production stop because of carpet in the trunk. We had production stop because of a USB cable. At one point for the Model S, we literally raided every electronics store in the Bay Area. For a few days there, nobody could buy a USB cable in the Bay Area because we went and bought them all to put them in the car. Literally. And there's like hundreds of stories like that. So anyway, that's solving those constraints and a logistics problem that makes World War II look trivial. I'm not kidding. Like, the scale is insane. We're talking millions of cars, massive global supply chain, 50 countries, dozens of regulatory regimes. It's insane. So, yeah.
Thank you. And the last question from institutional investor is, Master Plan Part 2 talks about an urban transport vehicle that is smaller than traditional bus with greater aerial density achieved by removing the central aisle. Do you have any updates to share on this goal?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's move to analyst Q&A.
Thank you. First question is from Pierre Ferragu with New Street Research. Your line is open.
Hi, guys. Thanks a lot for taking my question. I'd love to get actually an update on what you presented on the battery day. In the last 6-7 months, I was wondering how much progress you've made on that front. First, in terms of process development, so how are things coming together on your pilot line? Are you getting to the kind of production throughput you were aiming for? And second, actually on your production ramp. So I was wondering in which sites you're ramping production capacity for the 4680 cell, and where you stand on ramping up that capacity as well. And I'll have a quick follow-up on energy as well, if that's possible.
Well, so we have and Drew closely add to this, but we have a small sort of pilot plant, which is still big by normal standards, expect to have like a 10 gigawatt hour per year capability in Fremont, California. We've made quite a few cells. We're not quite yet at the point where we think the cells are reliable enough to be shipped in cars, but we're getting close to that point. And then we've already ordered most of the equipment for battery production in Berlin, and then much of it for Austin as well. So we're really down to like the nitty-gritty elements. But overall, I think we still feel quite optimistic about this achieving volume production of the 4680 next year.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Just one thing I would add is there's been a lot of questions about yields. Actually, I noticed people asking about that, and the yield progress has been really strong every day. When we were really still in commissioning phase with most of the tools, to the point where we're confident that the yield trajectory aligns with our internal cost projections. We did talk about yield also at Battery Day, which is one of the reasons why it's useful to check in on that. It takes a while, as Elon just mentioned, to go from prototype to production, and it's not just parts, it's processes, it's equipment. But as we've matured those pieces of the process equipment, we've gotten to where we need to be on the yield side.
Yeah, and basically, this is just a guess because we don't know for sure, but it appears as though we're about 12, but probably not more than 18 months away from volume production of the 4680. Now, at the same time, we are actually trying to have our cell supply partners ramp up their supply as much as possible. So this is not something that is to the exclusion of suppliers. It is in conjunction with suppliers. So yeah, we want to be super clear about that. This is not about replacing suppliers. It is about supplementing the suppliers. So we have a very strong partnership with CATL, with Panasonic, and LG. And our request to our strategic partners for cell supply is please supply us with as much as you possibly can. Provided the price is affordable, we will buy everything that they can make.
Yeah, and specific to that, we're on track to more than double the supplier capacity over the next 13.
Yeah, we exactly. We do expect from suppliers willing to receive double the cell output next year versus this year.
Yep.
Okay. And I had a quick follow-up on maybe Zach for you on your energy business. So I understand like the negative gross margin with Solar Roof RAM, but I was wondering, what do gross margin look like there when you look at the storage business, and what's your ambition in terms of gross margin in that business? As I guess it's going to grow in the mix in coming years. So it's important for long-term modeling.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of.
We're aiming for comparable margins in storage as in vehicle, but it is important to bear in mind that vehicle is more mature than the storage. So we already are at good margins with the Powerwall, but some additional work is needed for the Megapack to achieve good margins. Yeah, Drew, what do you think?
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, just jumping in, Elon. Absolutely agree. Yeah, Powerwall is mature. We've been producing Powerwall 2 for 3 years now, and we're at good margins there. But Megapack has more room to go to achieve our targets.
So we have a clear runway for improving the cost per the megawatt hour of the Megapack.
Absolutely, yes, we do.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question, please.
From from Rod Lackey with Wolfe Research. Please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I was hoping maybe just first you could talk a little bit about how you're thinking about the rollout of version 9 of FSD and the transition to the subscription model. It sounds like some of this is about to roll out next month. I'm not sure if that's the subscription model, but maybe you could just spend a little time talking about how impactful you expect that to be.
So
Mute again.
guys.
Yeah, we're working on getting FSD subscription out. There's a couple of internal technical dependencies, but from a business model perspective, that's aligned, and we're hoping to roll that out soon. The key thing that I say here, there's a lot of potential for recurring revenue based on an FSD subscription. If you look at the size of our fleet and you look at the number of customers who did not purchase FSD up front or on a lease and maybe want to experiment with FSD, this is a great option for them. One of the things we'll need to keep an eye on is a potential transition from cash purchases of FSD subscription over to, or cash purchases of FSD who may move over to FSD subscription. And so there could be a period of time in which cash reduces in the near term, and then as the portfolio of subscription customers builds up, then that becomes a pretty strong business for us over time. But we're hoping to get this launched pretty soon and see what the response is to it.
Okay, great. And was hoping, Zach, maybe you could just talk a little bit about OpEx. There was a noticeable increase, even excluding SBC. Obviously, a lot going on this quarter, but can you maybe just talk a little bit about how we should be thinking about that going forward?
Sure. On the R&D side, what we're seeing, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, is kind of a convergence of a series of programs that are happening. And our R&D OpEx spend kind of correlates to where we are in the product life cycle on different programs. And so we're kind of at the tail end of investments in what we call internally Palladium, which is the new Model S and Model X. And so we expect that to decrease over time, but it was high in Q1 for a lot of the reasons that Elon had mentioned. We're also getting very heavy into 4680 development that Drew and team are working on, and the associated structural battery pack that goes along with that. And so these are new technologies, not only new to Tesla, but new to the industry. And so we're investing heavily there on an R&D side to work out those kinks. And, spend along in those areas, should continue over time as we continue to work through the development cycle of those. And then I also mentioned, Elon talked a bit about, Dojo and the potential there. So from neural net investments and custom silicon investments, these continue to be areas that we spend on and make investments in. On the SG&A side, the business is pivoting very quickly to be global, and China is ramping quite quickly. And we're trying to make sure that we are staying ahead of the volume so that we have the right sales capacity, store capacity there, local investments in IT and others to manage the growth, such that as the growth comes, the execution challenges are smaller than maybe in similar periods of growth that we've seen in the past. And so we're making investments there ahead of the growth. And overall, as we look at OpEx as a percentage of revenue over the course of the year, we do expect to see a substantial drop from 2020 to 2021 as the volumes in the latter part of the year pick up.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question, please.
Thank you. From Dan Levy with Credit Suisse. Your line is open.
Hi. Good evening. Thanks. Two questions. One is on COGS. I think we've gotten from Battery Day a pretty good feel about the potential for COGS reduction related to powertrain, but I'd like to get a sense of the path to reducing COGS X powertrain, as you'd still need a meaningful reduction on that front to make the math work on a $25,000 vehicle. So what levers do you have to reducing your cost X powertrain? Is it just more scale, better supplier pricing, or is it just based on ongoing cost reductions?
Sure. I mean, I think all of the above.
Yeah, I mean, on the vehicle side, there's plenty of opportunity as well. Obviously, building a car like a Model S is quite complex and has various moving parts. Model 3 and Model Y were steps of improvement in that. But when you look at some of the other advancements that we're including in the Model Y factories into Austin and Berlin, we've reduced the body part count by as much as 60%, and the part costs money. So we continue to find optimizations there, as well as we get economies of scale when we start to talk about the volumes we're considering worldwide with 4 factories building the same vehicle. So both of those things on the vehicle side will improve our COGS as well, and the powertrain continues to be integrated into that.
Great. And then just related, as we see Berlin and Austin ramp, I'd like to just get a sense on the comparison of Fremont versus the new capacity. Obviously, Fremont non-optimized because you bought, the old NUMMI facility. You had to retrofit that to your needs. So maybe you can give us a sense of how your new capacity is going to differ versus Fremont. What are the areas that you have efficiencies that you previously didn't have, and maybe how much does that add up to improved COGS over time to help you achieve that $25,000 vehicle?
Yeah, I don't think we don't want to talk too much about future product development. The earnings calls are not the right place for to make major product announcements. So yeah, we'll get there, but we'll talk about it later.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for dialing in and for listening, and we'll speak to you again in about 3 months. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
This concludes today's conference call. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.
Oh, I'm muted. All right.
Well, what did you guys think of the questions that came up? Valid, disappointed, bonehead? What do you think?
Boring bonehead questions. No, they were fine. I like the fact that they tried to bait Musk into giving away some stuff, and he was just like, no, because 4 years ago he would have totally went for it and just told them everything they asked. He's learned how to play this game a little better now.
Yeah, he's definitely learning the game of the press a little bit better.
Yeah.
Although I noticed that he seems to always have to jump into the question and answer. It's like some of his other executives kind of hesitate if they hear even an interruption or a noise from Elon. It was like, oh, go ahead, Elon, because he seems to want to be the spokesman always.
Yeah, definitely has
And
some delegation.
And he's not the best public speaker either. So it's like sometimes kind of wish he'd let his other executives speak a little bit more. But it is nice to hear it straight from his mouth as well.
Yeah.
Because we all know who's running the show there.
Oh, definitely.
Did we lose Casey?
I'm not sure.
He had to take a quick break. He'll be right back.
All right. I thought that the stuff about losing radar was interesting. How it has been filling in some of the gaps that Vision had, which makes sense early on. When Vision system wasn't very good, you needed it. Now, however, they're running into this where Vision says one thing and radar says something else. Which one do you trust? And that's one of the things Casey mentioned in the chat there was, is this why we've been seeing phantom braking problems? And it makes sense if you have two systems and one of them says, hey, you're about to hit something, you should probably listen to it and stop. But if you really do trust the vision system and it says there's nothing there, then that's the right way to go.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. It at this point, it's just like noise, right? And like you said, if you're getting conflicting information, you're always going to err on the side of caution, which is why you get all that phantom braking. This is better to break, just in case.
Do we know that radar is the cause of phantom braking? Do we know it for a fact?
We don't know it for a fact, but they have hinted that that's what's causing it because with radar, you don't know where vertically your large signatures are coming from. You can kind of tell a little bit better on perpendicular to your travel, but even then, it's kind of hard to tell stuff that's close to the road but not on the road because of the way the returns happen.
Yeah, there were some good comments in our chat section during that too.
Oh yeah.
And Michael was saying, I am glad they addressed the Texas incident because that's been getting a lot of publicity lately.
Yeah. I kind of wish they didn't wait this long to do it, but maybe they didn't have everything till this morning. So, I mean, it was a very detailed response, and I was glad to hear it. That they didn't hem and haw about it. And they did say, by the way, this is still ongoing. We'll let you know more when it's done. So that was the responsible way to handle that.
You know that of course the media though gets the initial kick at the can, and they can push the story out far and wide with little to no facts because it's they've got the publicity box to do it, and of course the other media outlets are more than happy to pick up another Tesla story and push it out. So it is a problem,
especially if it's negative.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
like there is a problem with it. But as we've said previous times, Tesla basically runs a double-edged sword. They get a lot of free publicity, but if something goes wrong, that is publicized greatly as well.
Yeah, that's why I kind of think that they should bring back the media team. That way, you've got somebody other than Elon to answer all hours of the night, even if it's a no comment yet or we'll respond later. That way, you don't get the hit pieces that say, "Oh yeah, we called Tesla, they didn't answer. It's been 8 months since our last answer from them," or however long it's been.
Yeah.
Somebody who's trained in wrangling them and their weird.
It's probably a
questions.
good
Lawyer-like.
idea. There's reasons to have a media wing, and that's certainly one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should definitely have a PR team.
Yeah, not sure why they decided to eliminate it completely, but I think it's a bad call to continually allow it to be absent.
Well, I'm sure it was a financial decision. They looked at it and they figured.
I can't believe that. Not at this point. Tesla is.
I mean, because if you think about it, they probably evaluate everything financially. Like, okay, are we getting our money's worth out of this? What are we getting out of this? And right now, they're so constrained that they're not trying to advertise. They're not trying to sell more stuff. They're not trying to gain more demand. They have a higher demand than they can put out. They're battery constrained. So they probably look at it as, okay, we don't want to try to create more demand. We don't have a need to advertise or anything like that. So we're going to scale back when it comes to any of that type of stuff. And that might be part of their calculus.
If that's the case, then we're only talking a couple of people. One's to deal with fires, and as Casey mentioned, put out a statement in the middle of the night that we will respond to this later. I can't see that being a big expense.
You're right. That wouldn't be a big expense. I don't know.
Make an intern some payment stock.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they should have a PR team at minimal. I mean, they don't have to advertise necessarily have a whole big advertising budget which they never have had, right? You've never seen a commercial for them on TV or anything like that. But at the same time, they should have a PR team that at least put out some fires.
Yeah, that's the kind I'm thinking of. Is there's just the back door. They just literally just deal with the reporters. They don't have to They don't have to spend any high dollar on people who would do advertising handling and that sort of thing. Just literally someone to answer questions when the phone gets picked up or email gets sent out. That way they can't just run amok with assumptions. That's how I'm picturing it. I mean, I know it could be any number of ways, but that's what when I hear that, that's what I think.
And another interesting part of the call is that Elon went down the road pretty far about solar energy being able to power the entire United States with basically 100 miles by 100 miles grid of solar. And then when he even went into about a power plant, right? About the unusable land at a power plant, filling that up with solar would be enough to power the nation. Yeah. I think Tesla Tesla Energy would do themselves a favor if they were just to build a demonstration plant.
Yep. And like,
well, I mean, they kind of did build
solar. One. Certainly not at 100%. But what if you were to build something with 0.5% or 1%, and say, okay, that's all it requires is you to scale this up by X, and here's the figures that are coming out of this thing every month, and that's enough to power the nation.
But I mean, they kind of did that in Australia.
Right, but having it in America,
right,
I think would be even better, because now it's showing the utilities, right? It's showing them, and since they should probably put it in a state that they can get that kind of a deal that they got in Australia, or that the deal in Britain, where they can sell the power based on what's available, what the price is. That type of a deal. Put that demonstration in a state, because it'll make them money on top of being a demonstration site.
Yeah, and I think Texas might be the perfect place for them to start that, especially after the storms and everything else that they just had, and the disaster that was, and not only the disaster that the storms were, but the fact that the way their regulations work with selling and wholesaling, and the pricing structure of those of the energy, and how people were getting outrageous bills like $16,000 and stuff like that, when it was that high demand and nobody had any power. So, that would be probably the perfect state to start it. And Texas gets a lot of sun.
That they do. So, like, he kept mentioning, the keep out zone of the power plant. So, like in Thailand, for instance, they have a water reservoir that they use for hydro, and they just put solar panels across the surface of the lake that sits behind the dam. And imagine putting that over your cooling pond, and then over the green space, and then the windmills. And then there's also, like Omar mentioned with the Hornsdale plant, you can actually put solar on top of the battery plant as well. You don't have to just have it next to the battery plant. And that would probably also help with that parasitic load of when the packs are heating and cooling themselves, because now they're not facing direct sunlight.
Right. Why not have them in shade, and shade provided by solar panels? That sounds like a perfect fit.
Yep. Michael Jordan is on. Well, he actually had two, but let's talk about the one that's on this particular topic. They announced a deal with Apple to produce a Megapack installation that's larger than the one in Orangedale. That's significant.
But that's, of course, Apple buying.
It is Apple.
Right.
I'm talking about.
We need a utility.
If Tesla is their own utility,
yeah.
Make a demonstration site, make the figures available on a website, so that the world of all utilities could see it actually in operation, and know that this plant physically exists here. It's producing X based on X amount of solar panels that are in place.
Yeah, because
just the proof of concept that it's viable and profitable, because that's the big piece. Nobody's going to do it unless they can make money.
Yeah, because the virtual plants, they work, and we've seen it work. But like you said, if you can go there, point at it, touch it, look at the grid, look at the displays, then that's going to make a huge difference to some of these old school operators that have a password of 000 and have it stuck on the internet.
Yeah. If they pick a small like Boca Chica or someplace like that, and just said, okay, we're going to power this. It's going to be our solar panels and this massive battery here that'll make sure that it has 24/7, 365 service. That would be cool.
On another subject, they went into 4680 battery, and they talked
Yes.
a little bit about the production of it, that they're not quite at the point where they would want to put it inside a vehicle. And they indicated that that production plant, they expect it to be production ready to put into a vehicle. And in what time frame was it? Was it 6 or 12 months?
It was quick.
Yeah, he said
Elon
up to 12
mentioned
months.
an
Something
actual
to,
time frame. I didn't quite catch it. I thought he said 6 or 12 months. I could be wrong.
I know
think
I
I remember
heard
hearing
12
something like
months.
that, yeah.
So I think he said within 12 months. I don't know if he said 6 to 12 or within
So
12, but I
that's
know I
a
heard
bit
12.
that's a bit concerning because, of course, Gigafactory Berlin and Texas expect to come online at some point with the Model Y. Maybe it's not going to start with the integrated battery with the 4680 in the sled. Maybe
Well, they
it's
could
going to
still
be
start
something
the
different.
they could start
Because
the production of the Model Y with
if they're not ready to put that battery inside a vehicle, and that's 12 months away, we expect Berlin and Texas to be coming online before then, and both of them are supposed to start with the Model Y.
Yeah, but Nevada and New
Right.
York could assemble the structural pack ahead of time and just ship them on a train, and then you just integrate them.
Sure,
into
they
your,
could, but still, they're not going to have them to put them in the vehicles yet.
Oh, that's why I'm saying those places is because they'll be the 2170s instead of the 4680s.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Right, I was going to say they could still start off with the other batteries that they're already making, and start off with the Model Y because just make them how they're already making them. My bigger concern is with the Cybertruck and the Semi, because they were trying to roll those out by the end of this year, and if they're still 12 months away, then that means they may be delayed to start that rollout until next spring.
Yeah, my conspiracy theory is that all the 4680s that we can't seem to figure out where they're going is they're all on a ship headed to Berlin
For what?
to go in the Model Y.
I think what we just talked about is that the Semi and the Cybertruck are the ones that really need that.
They need it, yeah.
4680. There's no reason to jeopardize the launch of the Y in Germany. They're just going to go with 2170s, tried and true.
That's true.
And yeah.
So then in that case, that would just mean they're being stockpiled. They were being built, but they're not actually going anywhere, which is also a good business move. Because if you're going to need a lot more of them for those two vehicles, then just the longer it takes you to start, the longer time you have to build up a stockpile.
Right, especially if initial yields are low, then they can make sure that they're doing a lot more testing and scrapping the bad ones and putting those materials back in the system.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if they if that is publicized, that the 2170 is going to be used or not in Berlin to start. But it certainly makes sense now that the timing has been indicated that he's not comfortable in putting those 4680s inside of a vehicle yet. And if that's 12 months away...
Yeah, but Berlin's at least 2 years away, Mark.
You hope.
So for the folks who aren't familiar, Patrick and Mark have a bet on whether Terra Texas or Giga Berlin will be finished first, and you can tell which side each one is on.
Which one started first? That's all I ask.
Well, yeah, but one is Germany and the other is Free Enterprise America.
True.
So I voted Shanghai.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shanghai 6.
But then again, I mean, didn't Elon, when he started building Giga Berlin, didn't he start without having all the permits done or whatever? And
they haven't had the permits yet. They're building ahead of the permits at all times.
Right.
Getting
So
the permits after the fact. So
right.
It's,
so he's like, oh, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So I'm just gonna roll with it.
Right.
I mean,
does that work in Germany?
It's been working so far.
Germany did have preliminary permits that allowed them to.
Oh, okay.
But the problem is if those permits don't issue, then they have to. They could have to tear down everything they did under the preliminary
Ooh.
permits.
Like if you finish your basement and sell your house without letting anybody know.
Right. Yes, and then the
Yikes.
inspectors find it. Uh-oh. Yeah, there's a question there about did they talk about the launch of the refresh Model S and X? And they did. That was the Palladium project. They talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they said it's well, we saw Q1 there was no production. They did deliver
Yeah.
some, but that was stuff that they had produced from Q4 that came over, and
And it was
so I was
2020, right?
that number being 0. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously they this refresh was not quite as easy as they thought it would be. Although they did talk about they want to ramp up the S to 2,000 a week. So before S and X
Over.
together, and I think he said, and if things go really well, 2,200, 2,500.
Just for the S, because the S and X together, like you were saying,
Exactly.
were
Yeah.
2,000 period for months, years at a time.
Right, 100,000 to combine for an entire year, I think, when they were at their peak. So now they expect the Model S alone to get to that level, plus, Model X on top of that. That'll be great. Then those are the high margin. So they're getting all these great results with their affordable cars. So when they move to doing S and X and they get them back up to 100,000 or more, we can expect the numbers to look even better for profitability and gross margin, all that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then
So
Michael,
they indicated that they hope to have the S refresh available next month to start.
They hope.
They hope.
They hope.
Well, like you said, production hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're in a mini hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bet the company hell, though.
It's not bet the company hell, but it's still not fun.
Yeah, it could survive a whole nother quarter if it had to. And
Well, like Elon said, making a one-off is a child's play
Easy.
compared to
Yeah.
mass production.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. So retooling retooling everything and getting everything ready. It's big.
And so Michael Jordan pointed out that there'd probably be some corner cases where radar and vision would have different results. But one cool thing about the way they're handling vision is their cameras don't have IR filters on most of them, so they can actually see better than a human in two ways. The first is that they have a broader spectrum that they're able to look at because they can see in infrared and ultraviolet, but also because they don't get bored, they don't blink, they don't look away. It's got one job.
They don't get distracted.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they're not looking at their phone.
I wonder how that improves night vision. That would be
hopefully it improves night vision a good bit, especially once you combine it with where Elon was saying, where it's one scene from 8 cameras rather than in over time as well, rather than 8 different pictures you're stitching together 1 second at a time, rather than like it was a 3D scene, which is a smart way to do it.
Yeah, I didn't think about how that would work when you have multiple cameras looking the same direction with different focal lengths. Now it really does become 3D. And they talked about how they are training the system and they can get it to be doing self-labeling. And that's exactly that. Once you can get to self-labeling, you're able to make estimates and inferences and then improve that without a whole lot of human time to label things. And with distance estimation, that's exactly what they can do, because you make a distance estimate and then as the car approaches it, you can realize whether or not that was a correct prediction, which is how you can build this whole 3D world. It's not just a 2D world. It has depth, and that's what LiDAR gives you. But now they're able to reproduce that through AI and good cameras, and cameras give you so much more spectrum to deal with, where LiDAR is single wavelength. And so yeah, this is a much more rich data set. And I always think about it like, if you had to drive remotely, would you want to have camera data or radar or LiDAR data? And
I'd want the cameras if I was a remote operator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as a remote operator, you would want cameras, and we have a pretty good neural net here. Instead, you would make really poor decisions if you had to go based on radar. For example, a Coke can, the bottom of it reflects like it's a giant semi truck. Yeah.
or the side of it doesn't look as big as it really is, and that could also be a problem if it were made of steel and not aluminum.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of false positives that
And
these
false negatives.
can see. Yeah.
Yeah. So about 20 years ago, Microsoft had a project called Sea Dragon, which ended up in a product called Photosynth. The original Photosynth, you could give it like a million pictures of a scene, and it would make a point cloud, and you could reconstruct a scene from either photographs that people took of a monument sort of thing, or you could take all the pictures yourself and then walk through the scene, and it would be able to measure points, and you could actually rebuild with the very high accuracy, reconstruct a building just from having thousands of pictures. And what is a video if not 30 frames a second times 8 cameras? Sounds like thousands of pictures to me.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. And I imagine
I
now
mean,
the computers are a lot better than 20 years ago. In fact, he mentioned that. He mentioned that they're running a desktop class computer now rather than even what they were running just a couple years ago.
well, I mean, currently humans drive off of sight, right? We got
Mostly.
basically two cameras right here. Just these
Yeah.
two. And, if you're a really cautious, safe driver, you can drive very, very safely, not get into crashes and make good decisions and everything. And you can do that on a consistent basis. And we do it all the time, whether it's, if it's raining out or if it's sunny out, we do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that the computer is going to be able to do it even faster because it can make the decisions quicker. And, visually, it's never going to, like we said earlier, it's never going to blink. It's never going to get distracted. It's never going to, look at its cell phone because it got a phone call or nothing like that. It's just always going to be on task.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's really no logical reason why you couldn't do it just off of vision and not need the radar.
Yeah. So this is another example where there's conventional thinking, and then there's what Tesla's doing, and they don't match. And that was when they started their company. It was like nobody wants an EV, or that's only you're going to sell 10 of them to the billionaires in the valley, and then you'll be done. And we've seen this over and over where people say that's just, they're crazy. Until now, I mean, one of the things they talked about was how the demand for EVs in general is growing. Customer perceptions are changing, and we on the What Drives Us show, we had this whole list of here are the regions where they are going to be banning gas car sales. So there's a real radical change in thinking that has finally happened that Tesla saw when they started back in whatever 2008 or whenever that was, so a decade from now, the rest of the world might say, "Oh yeah, why would you use anything other than cameras? They're great." But it's going to take a while for the rest of the world to catch up to that, I think.
Yeah, but right now the armchair philosophers are really loud.
Right.
But I think Patrick's point is very valid.
Remember the FUD that was spread, before Tesla became profitable.
Right.
So this is nothing new. This is something that they've faced since inception. It's a lot more muted than what it used to be.
Yes.
There is that. And it's interesting what Elon had mentioned in the forward-looking statement at the beginning, talking about the Model Y production, indicating that he believes that the Model Y will be the best-selling car, bar none, across the spectrum of vehicles sold. And he believes that will happen in 2022. Then he corrected himself and said there's a better than not chance it will be that case in 2022. So I guess that's a 51% chance. But
I mean, we've already seen it in California, and I imagine once the thing gets to Europe, we're going to see it there too.
Exactly. So
well, that's a popular vehicle segment, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think the number one vehicle segment in America, though, right now is the pickup truck. Isn't the F-150 like the most popular vehicle in America?
So it's the best-selling car in America.
So therefore, I mean, once the Cybertruck gets up and running and gets in full production, maybe that becomes more popular than the Model Y. I don't know, but until then, I'm sure the Model Y will be the most popular in the Tesla lineup, at least.
Yeah. The Cybertruck is so big, though, I think it might actually end up being maybe number 2 to the Model Y, unless people are looking for ultimate price rather than being able to park it anywhere.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about all the truck people now, the people that already buy trucks and already are in that market segment.
And
Yeah,
of
they're
course,
gonna
they have to get production up to that amount that they could actually oversell an F-150. So
Yeah.
you know, we're talking what we're talking 500,000 a year, or is it 1 million a year? 1 million a year F-150s are sold.
It'll be over 1 million a year.
So that's going to be quite a production ramp there as well.
I like
Yeah,
the
that's going
one
to take some time.
that truck guys are just going to ditch their diesel and gas trucks and buy Cybertrucks. I hope you're right.
Well, I mean, when you look at it though, how many of them are going to get their pride hurt by this CGI monstrosity, and they're going to go out and get one too, but they're going to get the next step up from their neighbor because they can't have the small one.
Right.
But not only that,
no small one.
That's true too.
But not only that, not only based just on performance, but the simple fact that all truck guys hate buying that fuel.
Yes.
And this is way. I mean, it's gonna be way cheaper.
Yeah. I like that, the 4 stages of Cybertruck acceptance, because we all did it. Like you saw us on the live stream, we were like, "What is that? Where's the fun coming out?"
Really? Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's a funny prank. Haha. Oh wait.
Like, oh, he's not joking. Maybe I should look into this.
Like, wait,
And
is
then
he really
then does
serious?
the
Are they for
price.
real?
Right, and then you see the price, the fuel consumption, the capabilities. Then you see it dragging an F-150 up a mountain and out racing a Porsche. It's like, I should look into this further. That next morning, I'd reserved one.
That price had me scratching my head. Like, wait a minute, how are they doing
Yeah,
that?
I'm like, wait, this thing is cheaper than the Model Y that just started going on sale by the time they announced this thing. I'm like, all right. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I'm gonna sign up.
I'm like, this is on par with a gas truck. Like, how are they doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, batteries it's going to need to haul and tow. That was a surprising price tag, that's for sure.
Exactly. The Cybertruck is a short bed length. So I think that the bed length was really going to hurt acceptance of the Rivian, the Workhorse if they make it to production, and even the Bollinger, because a lot of people don't want to do the Chevy Avalanche thing and have their cargo inside the cab with them. So I think that if the Cybertruck bed is 8 feet when you fold down the tailgate or 8 feet when it's closed, we'll see what the final version looks like. And you can tie down
It's 8 feet when it's folded down. So
okay.
I think it's 6.5 feet when it's folded up.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was.
So as long as it's robust enough that you can have it extended and then tie your cargo to it and not have it fall out the back, then I think that would be enough for most people. But anyone who needs to carry 8 feet with it up, hopefully somebody engineers a extended tailgate or something.
Yeah, tailgates.
I like that one on the Canoe.
Right.
Yeah. Canoe, the car brand, not the water vessel. Yeah, but Canoe just lost 2 of their executives, so I don't know if they're in a healthy state or not. Hopefully they are, because that's a pretty innovative vehicle as well.
Yeah, on the FSD thing, one of the comments that Musk only briefly mentioned was how once you have this neural net that does what you need it to, you have to be able to shrink it down and be able to fit it on their system that has to run on less power than a 100-watt light bulb.
Yeah.
Jim Keller was on, I think it was Lex Friedman's podcast, talking about that same problem, that getting a result that does everything you need is not the hard problem. The hard problem is then paring it down to just the essentials to make it fit and be able to run in real time. And so that's interesting. If you are running it on a network of computers, sure, that would probably be able to do it today. But that's not the real world. You need something that is less power and a lot faster. So,
and doesn't rely on a data connection, because you could be in the middle of nowhere and need it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like, hey,
and it was
is that
interesting.
A tree?
It was interesting how the Master of Coin talked a little bit about the FSD subscription price. and
Yeah.
that he didn't, of course, give us the amount of people that sign up for FSD. I would love to know that number, by the way. But that comment about how there may be a drop in revenue when the monthly service comes online until they build up subscription numbers instead of people buying it in one fell swoop for cash. So he talked about that as they believe it's going to be probably they believe it's going to be a good uptick for people that are going to accept that over paying for the FSD up front. And
Yeah.
Casey, you put a question in about how many people, what we believe the amount is. I commented back with about 200 US a month, and I'm
Yeah.
curious about the rest of you as to what you think that number will be.
Leave a
I
comment
think
down in the chat.
minimum would be 200.
Yeah, I like the way he called that guy out. It sounded like they were in the like he was calling out the Jarl. Master of Coin, tell me about. Yeah, I wonder if they'll be doing any Doge or if that would be a conflict with the SEC. But I think eventually they'll do some Doge as well. But that was
I mean,
a really
they're already
cool
doing
moment.
Bitcoin.
Right, exactly. It's just a derivative at that point. But maybe not this quarter, just because of all the drumming up of Doge that Elon has done,
Yeah,
just to
there's
keep
I don't
them off
think
their back.
Yeah.
So Omar thinks it's going to be minimum 200. What do you two think?
I mean, that makes sense. He showed me the math, and if you divide out 10,000 by the life of the car, and then you remember that he said it's going to be more expensive, that you have to. Hopefully, he doesn't mean a penny more expensive, because that would be an Elon thing to do. But
So I think the price, if they even continue to offer it just for sale outright, I think the price is going to go up as more of these features come out.
yeah, I hope they don't take away the option to buy it outright, because
Right.
there's always a group of people who like to own it, and if you're going to keep the car longer than the calculation that they have for you, then you end up ahead without having to robotaxi at first.
Right. Yeah. So typically car payments are over 5 years. And so if you take, there was someone in the chat posted this, and I thought that was a good answer of $12,000 over 5 years of payments. That comes out to $225. So that seems like the right answer to me.
Yeah, I also liked how they pointed out to the investors. They're like, "Hey, this is a wide open field. We only have this many people who actually bought the thing outright or the full package, and that means that there's this wide open field to sow." So,
And just anecdotally, I know quite a few people that are like, yeah, I'm just going to wait for the subscription. I want to wait for the subscription. So,
yeah.
We'll see what happens. So I'm sure they're going to get a bunch of people that are going to jump on that, especially if for some people their everyday life is they may not use it enough. They may not drive enough. If you're only driving 20, 30 miles a day, maybe it's not a big deal to have FSD. But then when you do want to go on that road trip or whatever, or you have something coming up or you want to go further, hey, let me go ahead and sign up for that and pay for that for this month. And then
I
use
have a
it.
feeling, Omar, that it's going to be minimum yearly amounts. When you sign
Yeah,
up,
like
it's
you have
going
to
to be
sign a
like
year
it's going to be
contract.
like a cell phone subscription or something that you got to
I can
sign
see
up for
that.
2 years. I bet you that's coming.
I was wondering if they would do.
I could see that happening,
Yeah.
especially at first. But I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see. We'll see how they do it.
Yeah, I hope
I would
not.
like to see them tie the robot snake charger to having FSD. Because then you don't have to worry about lines. The car will automatically handle the speed and the charging, and it'll just pull up, and it'll never have to wait in line, assuming that you're awake while it's driving. And
Oh, that would be interesting.
it's
Yeah,
like a fast pass at the charger.
yeah, exactly. A fast pass. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I hope they don't do a 1 year or 2 year requirement, because
I don't mind a 2-month or 3-month. That would be reasonable. But like you said, 1 year is expensive.
So summer's coming, and a lot of people do road trips over the summer. So if you want
Right.
to get it for June, July, and August, and then September, kids are back in school, and you don't need it anymore. That would make sense to me. With all the new streaming services, they don't lock you in like that, right?
Most of them don't.
Okay. Yeah, most. If they're
Right.
no longer providing value for you, and you're paying them, you're just going to be disgruntled about it. So
Right, like the Adobe's got two subscriptions for Creative Cloud. You've got the one that's month to month from the get go, and the other that's a year commitment. And if you try to get out of that year commitment, they charge you the rest of the commitment before they let you go, and they cut you off right away.
oh wow,
Whereas the month to month, they let you finish your month out after you stop paying.
yeah. So I could see them giving you a discount if you sign up for a year or for 2 years.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
That would make sense,
that seems.
and I think that would be the nice way to go. Allow the month to month. Maybe that's a higher price. Maybe and then
And then the
That's
other
what
thing,
most
do a
providers
yearly
do.
subscription. If you do a year, you get a bit of a discount on it.
Right.
the other thing to consider is that, as Elon has said, the price is going to continue to go up for the cash only price. So guess what? The monthly
The
rate will
subscription
go
will
up
go
as
up.
well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Hopefully they lock you in at whatever you come in at. But there's two good groups of customers who are going to be interested in the month to month consistently is the folks who change their cars out regularly, and the folks on a lease who didn't get it at the time of the lease, because then you're in for the full 10, 12, 20, whatever the price is, and you're only going to keep the car 3 to 5 years. Whereas, or if you're somebody who changes every year, right? Like Brooks from Drag Time, or Eric, Eric Strait, the new one comes out, I got to get the new one, and they switch, and it's like, well, they didn't get anything out of it, so well, not nothing, but they didn't get the full value out of it
Right.
because the features aren't there yet. And then that'd also make it somebody who might be a bad driver. Like they do a lot of manual driving, and then they crash the car and it's stuck to the car, versus if it's stuck to you.
Right. Yeah. There are
I hope that,
reasons for it. There are a lot
Yeah,
of-
the fact that you can't transfer it when it doesn't stick with your account. It's not like you can transfer it to your next Tesla or anything like that. I think that will encourage a lot of people to do the subscription model for those that like to, like you said, like to upgrade regularly.
yeah. And then hopefully, if they do the buy a whole year and get a discount thing, they also do that to the connectivity package, because it'd be nice to have it just be $10 a month, $100 here you go, rather than here's $1,200.
Yeah, they definitely have to work on that transferability aspect, because when they start selling games in the car, if they get
Yeah.
stuck with the car, that would really suck. I mean, that's not how it works with the game console. When you
Right, and with Elon being an avid gamer, you'd think he'd understand this. I don't know why he doesn't get that or waypoints. He's got a big old mental block there, and he doesn't want to listen. Although with the waypoints, I think he's just messing with us when he walked it back on his recent tweets.
Did he really walk it back? Because last I
He
saw,
did.
Fine, you guys have asked so many times, we'll just do it.
Right, and then somebody else asked about it
He just
last
said
week or the week
no.
before, and he said
That
no.
was it.
Come on. Yeah, that's the beauty of the way that this car works. So I've done plenty of road trips. You put in your destination, it figures out all the charging stops for you, and that's
Right.
awesome. And when I was at one of the car events I was at, there was a Chevy Bolt there, and I asked then they had a Chevy rep, and I said, okay, show me how I could drive to San Diego and where I'd have to stop. And he was like, well, there's this OnStar feature. Oh wait, that doesn't do it. And then he couldn't figure it out. And
Right.
so maybe they have something better now. Maybe that guy just didn't know how to do it. But having the car have all that intelligence built in is great. So
Yeah. I think they partnered with if you use the Google, it'll do it, and Apple Maps.
yeah, and a better
Yeah.
route planner. There are solutions. But
That's what I wanted to say next. Is hopefully they build in a better route planner like Polestar did. That was a big win on their part for trip planning.
yeah, definitely.
Because rather than have it log into your account or having to feed in your exact watt hours per mile, it's in the car. It knows how much fuel you're using, and it's like, hey, you can slow down or you can charge here, here, and here.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. Definitely.
Yeah. Not that the Tesla one is bad, but the better route planner has waypoints, and it does a better job of accounting for weather and load and all that. The Tesla one isn't bad if you're within a stock configuration, but if you put a bike rack out back or a trailer out back, it is never right.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying that with those attachments, a better route planner can supplement for that?
Yeah, right now they log into your car, or you can feed it the exact watt hours per mile. But it would be nice if they were just in the head unit and they didn't have to go anywhere. They could just figure it out. Like they could. One of their premium features is they know the weather. and so they know the wind, they know the precipitation and temperature, so they can account for that. They've got a good statistical model of everybody's car, which is phenomenal.
Yeah,
Be a
my
big
experience
win.
with a better route planner is they are very pretty spot on. I mean, they're really good with elevation and like you said, the weather and all that. And they took into account my speed and everything else because I was like, the more data you put in, the more accurate they are.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gone anywhere in over a year, so I've completely forgotten how to use any map.
Yeah, for the trips I've been taking this last year, the money in the car has been more than sufficient. and since when we were towing stuff, I wasn't towing with the navigation. I didn't have to worry about whether it knew the trailer was back there or not.
Yeah, these little local runs I've been doing haven't needed much. Not much planning there.
But we're almost out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
One of the other-
Mark's got his first shot. Omar and I got our 2 shots. Patrick, you've got 1 or 2.
I'm not talking about my health stuff.
Sorry, no, didn't mean to put you there like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Sorry.
I'm definitely getting vaccinated, but yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the cool aspects that I what was it? We've already talked about all these. Demand growing for EVs, Model 3, best-selling in category. I took some notes. Model Y could be the best-selling vehicle on the planet. All very cool.
I think it will be.
Yeah. Yeah, this summer, definitely, when people coming out of lockdown, there's definitely going to be some road trips, that's for sure.
I think we're going to see a little mini sales boom, especially if they can keep up with supply. Based on what they're saying, I know they're trying, but I don't know if they will be able to keep up with supply. But I have a feeling that now that people can move about again, they'll need something to go in. Like I have some friends who sold their car when this all started, and well, they're going to want to go places, and the amount of trips they take, you don't want to rent. So
yeah.
One other question or one other point that was brought up was about the Bitcoin purchase.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They talked about how they reduced their position by 10%, took in a profit, cashed that out. And the reason that they want to be in Bitcoin is they want their cash to be highly available, but yet still get a return that's not currently available in the market. So their thought is that this is basically a cash bank account that they can convert into U.S. funds anytime they want. And the other time, it's hopefully going to gain value as it did most recently after their purchase.
So this is kind of like how a lot of the other older companies used to play with their foreign currencies. Yeah. They would just kind of move the accounts around, but this has a lot less fees involved in it.
Oh yeah, so Mark, you said they could convert it to U.S. dollars, but they could convert it to any currency they wanted to if they need euros.
That's true.
Or
that's true. Yeah, because if they've got it in there, it's in Bitcoin, and all of a sudden they need something major for Shanghai or for maybe not Shanghai because of the Chinese anti-Bitcoinness, but say they need something big for Germany or India, they could just switch it to that local currency as well,
right?
Without the conversion from US dollar to that. It's literally from Bitcoin to that.
Right.
Smart.
Yeah, but I mean, there is some risk involved in that as well.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, Bitcoin has been very volatile over the years. So I mean, if it loses value by a large amount, then they in turn would lose all that value. And now that asset is no longer has the same liquidity, because then it's like, well, you don't want to sell at a loss, so now it's no longer liquid. You just have to hold it until it goes back up, which eventually it may, but it's still a risk factor in that.
Yeah, which is why it was a small investment for them, percentage-wise, of their cash on hand, so that if that mitigates the risk in itself, right? They're not completely dependent upon it, and then do things like they did, where if it goes up significantly, okay, it's doubled, let's take some profit, and now you've also solved that problem there because you've reduced your position and you have cash on hand for doing so. So that's great. I don't think they'll ever buy Doge. If you just look at Doge, doesn't have the same 21 million coin limit that Bitcoin has. It really is supposed to just be for fun. I don't think it's would be a smart investment. And they're already pushing the limits pretty far with the Bitcoin stuff, and I'm glad they're doing it. And I think it's really going to pay off because now they're doing all the work with the SEC and regulators and things like that, and will establish this model that a whole lot of other companies are like, hey, why is Tesla able to do this and we're not? Well, you can, and now so that's going to drive the price up as more businesses start putting their cash on hand into Bitcoin. There's a limited supply of Bitcoin, and when you have companies like that buying $1 billion at a time, that's really going to jack the price up. Not stock advice,
We saw
but coin advice, but
right.
it seems like it's the way it's going to me.
We did see a couple of large companies after Tesla got in and had success in their first week or two. We saw was it three to five large companies get in and also get themselves some Bitcoin, and not just for their ransomware attacks.
Plus, they mentioned they're taking reservations down in Bitcoin, and they've actually gotten some, down payments and reservations that they've been taking in Bitcoin, which is interesting as well.
Yeah, and it's quicker to convert Bitcoin than it is if you have treasury bonds, because you got to wait for those things to mature.
Mm. And when they do take in Bitcoin for payment, they said they're going to hold that Bitcoin
for at least a little
right.
while.
And there's a lot of people, well, not a ton of people, but there are quite a few people that are, have made a significant amount of money off of crypto, and now instead of them having to convert their crypto into fiat and then, pay for their Tesla, now they can just pay for it directly.
Yeah, and
less fees for everybody.
Right. So, will Tesla ever start mining? Was one of the questions. Mining Bitcoin instead of just buying it, but if they have all the infrastructure in place, and they certainly have the supercomputers that they're using for Dojo, when Dojo's not busy working on the next version of full self-driving, maybe he can do a little bit of mining in the background.
Yeah, and he also responded to that question about them being a AWS style AI platform. I like that answer. He didn't say no, and he pretty much mostly said yes, but he didn't straight up say yes.
Yeah, I mean, he did talk about it being as big as their other businesses at some point in the future. It could be. So that's. I don't know how they get to that, or how they're offering the service, or what services aren't already being provided by things like AWS. But it'll be interesting.
You just got to do competition, and if your costs are lower, then profit.
Yes.
I mean, AI as a service, that could be a new market segment that they could fully take advantage of. That's interesting. I think it could be very lucrative. I don't know about the whole mining Bitcoin thing, though, because I think they would rather use up their resources in other ways than mining. But
if they had availability,
if they got some spare battery capacity, and
if
spare
it's sitting
compute
there and it's not doing anything, obviously they're doing a lot with it now, but maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Especially if they start offering AI as a service, right? So then, okay, we have these here available for people to purchase, and if no one's using this one, well, what are we going to do with it? They could use it to supplement their other things they need to do, but supposedly they're going to have their own dedicated system for that, and they wouldn't need these extra parts that were being sold. So, I don't know.
And then you've got companies like Microsoft that want to be carbon negative or carbon neutral, even that if they need some AI compute that is more than they've got on hand, or maybe their solar output and wind output isn't what they need to be, and they still need the compute, they can flip it over to Tesla, who already is carbon neutral, or will be by the time this thing is up. They can rely on that, which is pretty cool stuff.
Definitely.
Especially, like you said, if they do a straight up power company.
Yeah, energy's a trillion-dollar business, man. And there were some interesting things in there. He said about doubling or tripling the electricity supply going forward as we move.
Right. So he said you would need double the supply if all transportation was converted over to electric, because you would be using twice as much energy as we currently use.
And you would need
and
triple
then he said
if you were going to do heating.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure that Musk has looked into that and knows what he's talking about, but that does not jive with what I've heard in the past. So a few things that I've heard. Right now, oil refineries use a significant amount of energy. And in fact, if you look at energy use per mile, it's about the same as what EVs use for the refineries. And so if we stop making gasoline at the refineries, then that becomes available for EVs, and it's a wash. So that wouldn't require you doubling the capacity. And then the other thing is that most EVs charge overnight most of the time.
Yep.
And there's surplus capacity on the grid overnight, which is why the prices go down if you're on a time of use plan. So again, that allows EVs without doubling the capacity. So I'm trying to figure out how what he said jives with what I've already heard, and they don't quite fit yet. I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Yeah, I don't think you quite need double if you just use transportation, electric transportation, because like you said, I know the grid currently overproduces what we actually use. So the EVs plugging in would just use up that extra capacity, that extra, the excess. So,
And
I
then
mean,
if you
yeah,
go,
you would have to produce more, but I don't think it would be anywhere near double as well.
Yeah.
and like you guys were saying with the DC high voltage transportation of it, then that will also help them get it where it needs to go. I mean, because like, look here, my sun is setting, and Patrick's is still quite fine.
Right. Yeah. There was that link to the Pacific DC intertie. Yeah, so a whole bunch of hydropower from Oregon and Washington flows down to run Los Angeles. And that's not a short trip. And if you want to send it that far, these lines, their capacity is 3,100 megawatts. So 3.1 gigawatts.
3.1
that's-
gigawatts.
Yes.
if they're going to have to build that capacity anyways, it would make sense that, of course, you decentralize those solar grids. It's not 100 by 100 in one spot. It's more like 5 by 5 in 20 spots.
Right, and then that also helps if that 100-mile area has a snowstorm, or just clouds, so you can adjust for that.
Yeah.
One part I was liking in the letter before the call was they said about the vehicle software. They said that while over-the-air updates of maps and infotainment systems are becoming more common, so that's right there was a dig at everybody else saying that they do OTA, because yes, they technically do OTA in that they are updating your radio and your map, but not usually the whole car. There are some that are doing the whole car. Firmware updates remain rare in the automotive industry, and in Q1 they were able to navigate the global chip supply shortage issues in part by pivoting extremely quickly to new microprocessors while simultaneously developing firmware for new chips made by new suppliers. So I wonder if part of that last section helps explain what happened with the Model S. Because it does have a lot more power and a completely different build than the current system. I mean, we're running basically Celeron Automotive, and now it's looking like he's running desktop Ryzen basically.
Could be.
And then all the little microcontrollers, because I was like, what was there, something on Indiegogo I was watching, it was like some kind of toothbrush or something, and they're like, hey, we might not be able to do it the way we wanted to, we're going to have to look at changing the chips for the toothbrush. I was like, it's a toothbrush, and then I thought about it and was like, well, there are no chips. So
I mean, that makes sense. That could be part of it.
yeah. And then with them buying so much, not just the batteries, they're buying so much compute, because every single one of their cars is, from day one, has been a rolling data center. Or maybe not from day one, but from day one of the Model S anyway.
Yeah, maybe not so much the Roadster.
Yeah.
I want to just jump back for a second. The other part of that was he said tripling the power for home heating, which makes me go, Tesla's thinking about home heating.
Yeah, he keeps dropping hints about the HVAC, and I am excited for that.
Yeah, because they've built high efficient HVAC systems for their cars, and they have home products. Come on, let's get those together and have a Tesla HVAC system. I need to replace my old furnace and my old air conditioner. And
I could definitely see that happening in the future.
Yeah.
And then the houses are so much more efficient than the cars in general. because they you don't really want your cold air leaking out, but you don't really have a choice when you've got all that glass on the car, and so they might even be able to use just 2 or 3 of the car units per house, the same way that the superchargers initially, at least, were all just Model S chargers stacked up in a cage.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, they could definitely leverage what they already have and do it.
It's the way they do it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, even the initially the precursor to Dojo was literally just AP 2.5 computers shoved in a rack.
Right.
Parallel,
well, guys,
parallel.
it's been great. I've got
Yes.
shorter time schedule, so I got to go. You
Oh,
guys can certainly
absolutely.
continue, but I appreciate being invited, and thank you all for watching.
Oh, thank you for coming. I think that's
Thanks for the
actually
chat,
probably-
Mark.
Yeah.
Yes, you were.
I think that's
Bye-bye.
actually probably a pretty good stop point. Thank you. Unless you guys want to spend more time, or if the audience would like to spend more time, we can go on that, or we can call it a night.
Final questions? Otherwise, we
Yeah,
can-
absolutely. Give us a little type in the chat. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the energy storage, and so that part about making Powerwall the hub for everything is quite interesting. Like you said, it does make the installs easier, and with all these utilities fighting solar so hard, like my solar utility company, they don't want consumer solar. They want to do it themselves. And so if I'm invisible to them, they can't say anything because I'm not ever giving them back anything.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm lucky here.
I don't think you can avoid giving them back anything though, because
Oh, the Powerwall will just change your frequency on the inside of the house so that the solar inverters turn off.
just turn it off.
Yeah, that's what they do when the grid is down. They jack up the frequency, and that makes the solar inverter think the grid is having problems, so it will not backfeed into the grid when the grid is unstable. So they use this clever little trick. The only problem with that trick is if you have like an uninterrupted power supply on your computer, it also thinks that the grid is unstable, so it'll kick on and start running your computer for you.
Yes.
Why is the grid frequency out of whack? Something must be wrong.
Right. And then any analog clocks are also subject to, because they actually just count the cycles of your electricity.
Right.
But then also you're losing out on any of that overproduction that you have during the
Well, if
daytime
the grid
on your
if
grid.
the grid is down, or if the grid is going to charge you more than because like what they want to do for me and what they do for the next county over is if you go over a certain amount back to them, they'll charge you double the retail rate
See,
for the
for,
free
for
power
me,
for the free power they're getting from you.
so everywhere is different. So for me, what they
Yeah.
do is they credit me in kilowatts, whatever
Yeah,
it
that's what
is
I
that
get
I'm
right now.
feeding back to them. They just credit me kilowatts, right? And then like in the winter, so like in the summer and spring and everything, I'm overproducing. It's great. And then in the winter time, when you get a lot more cloud covers, a lot less daylight hours, and I get snow here, and everything else. That's when I use up all those credits that they credit me, right? So
Yeah.
I use it all up.
And that's great, and that's the way good
And-
utilities do it. Casey's talking
Yeah.
about workarounds for stupid utilities.
Right, because my utility does me that way now, and they're on their way to becoming a stupid utility. And so, if I become invisible to them, then that's a good way to handle it. Also, it also works when they're missing, because if your batteries are full, you don't want to keep producing your solar. You want it to go away, at least until you got more room in the pack.
Right. So that works well in certain use cases. Yes. In my particular case, I would want to keep producing and just send it back to the grid.
Yeah,
Right,
same.
and that's
And
the beauty
get
of it.
credit
Is
for
if they change your contract, like when it comes time to renegotiate that, if they change their mind, you can just call up Tesla and be like, "Hey, I need this plan," and
Switched
then
over. Yeah.
your controls will switch. Yeah, or like Patrick does. They've got the multiple different rates, and so he just manually does it in the app.
Yep. Starting next month, we go to having split peak to just having one peak, and so I won't have to
good.
be dealing with the app every day because currently Tesla's app does not support split peak. So every
They
day
will.
I change it to the morning peak, and then sometime after 10 a.m. I change it to the evening peak, then sometime after that peak, I change it back to the morning peak before that starts. So yeah, at least twice a day I'm in the app.
Nice.
Yeah, 10 times.
So what do you do? Set reminders for yourself to do it? Because like I'd have to set a daily alarm on my phone to remind me to do it or something.
No.
Yep.
I'm always checking
Oh,
on
man.
my solar anyway. I love to watch the graphs.
It's cool stuff to see. Yeah,
I used to do that for the first couple years, and I stopped. I don't even look at it anymore.
Same. I was disappointed to find out that mine doesn't qualify for the upgrade.
What now?
I was disappointed to find that mine doesn't qualify for the upgrade, the power
Yeah,
boost.
they did mention the dates, and I didn't catch it.
November.
November, yeah.
So yours might qualify, or yours might have been in transit. So I'm curious now.
Yeah.
Because you got them installed in December, right?
I did. I have them in. Yeah. So
Do they have a date on them?
So what was the manufacture date?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can figure out.
Oh, you took a picture of the nameplate?
No, but I
No.
wonder if any of the.
Paperwork?
Yeah, let me see if.
Maybe. I'm
Tesla's
curious
serial
now.
number. Yeah. But okay, so what they offer is the upgrade will give you more power output, and especially the peak
Right.
hour. But
Right.
that's not a problem for me anyway. I mean, if this somehow
Because you sized it correctly.
the energy and the then that would be great, but it doesn't.
No.
So with 3 of them, I have more power than the house will ever need. I've got 5 times more power than I need. So the fact that they gave me more of something I have more than I need of, that doesn't help me at all. So yeah.
But it will help with peak shaving. Say you're, say they have, say you could do a Texas situation where they want to charge you market prices, and you're charging both EVs, and you're running the dryer and the oven, and all of a sudden, ERGOT gets you, and you're like, oh shoot, and you've got the extra kilowatts of specific power that you can handle it.
Yeah.
and it just waves it through.
That's true. The nice thing though is that Tesla's system is an integrated system. So
That's true, because the charger already talks to the Powerwall.
yeah. So
That's true.
yeah, if I am charging and the batteries take over, if they leave more headroom for the house, the batteries just ask the cars to charge slower, and they do. Boom, easy.
Yep. Does it only do it through the Gen 2 and Gen 3 connectors, or does it do it directly from the car to the Powerwall?
That's a good question. My understanding is it's actually going through there's no direct communication
From the gateway to the other gateway?
That's actually go through Tesla's servers to talk to the cars.
Yeah. So the energy gateway to the car gateway.
Right.
So it's actually just talking directly, basically, to the car. So it's doing it through the car, not necessarily the wall connector.
Right, because I have the old dumb wall connector, not the new Wi-Fi wall connector.
Oh,
I've got
okay.
the one in between. I've got the one that wasn't like the metal clicky button, but also not the new lower powered smart one.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess that would also help with, say you're charging and you're not at home. That just because the house is out of power, your car in 3 states away doesn't start going slower just because your house ran out of power while you're on a business trip.
Yes, that's the cool thing about a connected car. They know all that stuff. They know where it's at.
But see, the thing is, they know where you're at. So
that would be funny.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on a road trip, and all of a sudden my car starts charging slower at a supercharger. Why? Oh, because the power went out at your house 3 states away.
Oh man. So I want to share this real quick. These were the pictures from the shareholder call.
Oh yeah.
And so here we've got this is Berlin, and then we've got
Berlin is that far along?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So Patrick gets some more paperwork on him.
Yeah. There's going to be rats or birds or killers or something. I got to find something to slow my down.
There's the indigenous ant population. It's mating season.
Yeah, what is that press?
This is the GigaPress. Yeah, GigaCast Press.
That's at Berlin.
Yeah, in Berlin, and then the new stamping press. This seems a lot more large than the one in Fremont right now.
Mm-hmm.
It still amazes me how quickly the 2 robots are able to hand stuff to each other through the big old press. Because if they get it wrong by a millisecond, they've just crushed the robot.
Yeah. That's
because they're able to take the safeties off because it's not two dudes with their feet on the press and then they bump it with their hip and run it through all the safety interlocks. It's literally three robots just going together and hoping they don't smush each other.
yeah, heavy duty equipment like that. You want robots doing that, not people.
Yes. I don't know
Absolutely.
how we ever survived doing it with people before. So here's your team, Terra Texas.
Oh yeah,
they're catching up.
Team Texas is on the move.
Yeah, they are still behind though.
Yeah.
Germany had a big head start.
Well, yeah.
Oh wow, the Model Y factory interior in Texas. So they've already got the robots and stuff inside. So this thing may be like the original Gigafactory, where they just start it running before it's done being constructed.
We don't have the walls up yet. That's okay. Just go.
You don't need walls. We're building them in a tent in Fremont.
Just do it.
That thing is massive.
That shot right there. Humans for scale. Look at how.
Yeah, banana for scale.
Someone has a banana there.
That'd be cool if we got to
It's
eat a banana for
humongous.
lunch. Yes. I mean, look how far off it just goes in the distance. You run out of light.
That's
and
insane.
then Shanghai. Yeah, Shanghai is just, like I said, my vote was on Shanghai just because of, man, look at that. The expansion continues. Look, you can see the shape is just getting larger and larger.
These factories are huge.
Yes. And then you got the new semi, because you can tell because the door handle is different.
Oh, I didn't know this was anything new about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
it's
remember,
a lot.
they got into that fight with Nikola about the design patent, so they said, fine, we'll change our design. They made this part go longer, and they changed the handles and a couple other things. Yeah.
Yeah, and how's Nikola doing?
Oh. Oh. I hope all these other competitors make it, because that would be the mission right there, is to change the whole world to sustainable transport. And I mean, I don't know that hydrogen's doing it, but electric is.
That pickup market is huge, and that's why everybody's doing pickup trucks. You got
Everyone's
Ford wants to
doing
do an
pickups.
electric 150. You got Lordstown. You got Rivian. You got obviously the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Yeah, workhorse.
It's going to be interesting. The next couple of years is going to be very
I think it
interesting.
will be. It'll be quite fun to watch. I can't wait to get a test drive for everything. The Hummer seems a bit out of my range, but it would be fun. And it's got all
Well,
that astronaut stuff everywhere.
The Hummer is going to be a low production vehicle anyway.
Probably so. But the Chevy sounds like that one's going to be a little more reasonable. I don't think it's going to be a rebadge of the Hummer either. I think it's literally going to be the Silverado version of the F-150 electric. So that'll be
interesting.
Yeah. And then the other cool thing about all of these people coming up is Elon's pettiness. So remember what happened with Lucid? Every time they said, oh yeah, our range is going to be this, our speed is going to be this. Next thing you know, like the existing Model S is just getting better. And then then Plaid comes out.
When they started doing their electric stuff at the Nürburgring, that's why we have the Palladium version of the S now, because
the Taycan.
He wants to have the crown, and
Yes.
every product that comes out is going to push the whole market forward. That's
Yes.
cool.
I'm curious what they're going to do with Roadster though, because now the Plaid Plus S does everything the Roadster was supposed to do except be as pretty, and it's not an ugly car by any means. Except fly, yeah, it doesn't fly. But the regular Roadster doesn't fly either. So, I mean, what will the Plaid Plus S not do that the base Roadster will do? Because we know the
Well,
Plaid
maybe the
Plus Roadster
handling.
will fly.
So
Maybe it's a lighter, smaller car
on the track, maybe, or something. It's a lighter vehicle. I don't know.
With those wider tires, it's going to have better traction, so it'll have a better 0 to 60 even with the same drivetrain.
Yeah, that's true. If you put the exact same drivetrain in it. Yeah, because if it matched, it'd be like, well, what do I want to spend the extra $100,000 for? Just so I could be cool. Because it's a Roadster.
And you got those just laying around if you're buying Roadsters.
I mean, if you think about that market segment, though, I mean, the
Yeah.
people that are spending $250,000 for a car anyway,
They aren't looking for sedans.
they don't care. that's the
Because the other Lambo costs 3 times, 5 times that.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, every time you look at that chart of like performance per dollar, it's like they're giving this thing away compared to all of the competition. Like the
Yeah.
Bugatti Veyron is what 4 times the price or more.
Million. Yeah.
Right.
I'm curious too. Why didn't they at least have it at $1 million? And when they the market bears that,
It does bear it, but remember they're only going for 25% profit margin, so.
Right, but if they had higher,
Yeah, but they could have still made it a $500,000. It still would have been half the price as the Bugatti, and it still would have outperformed the Bugatti, and it still would have sold.
Right, and
absolutely.
Then they have a slightly thinner margin on the Model 3.
That's true, because they don't have to be 25 per product. They could do 25 total, and that would help them do that. Interesting. Maybe they will.
Already kind of committed to a price.
Yeah.
But it's not like we.
But they didn't say
before.
They didn't say how much the one with the SpaceX package is going to be, right?
Right. They never quoted a price on SpaceX package, and it doesn't mean that after they fulfilled their reservations that they won't raise the price again.
That's true.
Pray that I don't alter it further.
Price changes definitely happen. That's for sure. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, look at.
Oh yeah, they're good for that.
Yeah. Yes.
Or even Cybertruck. If any of us changes our Cybertruck order, then we get to pay the higher price for full self-drive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the Model Y and the Model 3. Their prices have been all over the place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Model S, same thing. Like all of them, actually.
Yep.
For a while,
if you see what you want, don't hesitate.
That's right. And we found out today. We found out. I didn't check the price to see if the Mustang price went up yet or not. But so it's any popular EV, not just Tesla, because the rumor was that today the Mustang price would go up by at least $3,000. Is there a way for me to check that? I've got the internet here. So at that point, if it's popular, I mean, because like you've got other EVs that are sitting around and having birthdays on the dealer lot, but others that you can't keep in stock. And so if they're raising the price, then.
Supply and demand.
Okay, let's see. Started at $43,995. Yeah, this was the price drop they did last year, but then let's see if the news says they raised it again today. The GT starts at $65 for the GT Performance. 61. I don't know, because everybody's talking about the GT. Nobody's talking about. Let me refine the search. A lot of people saying that the price is going up. Like 8 different articles saying the price is going up. I wish they were nerdy like we are. They would just say, "Hey, here it is. Here's the comparison."
I'm sure it is. I mean,
we'll look it up and I'll let you know later. Yeah,
I'm sure it's going up. Why wouldn't Ford increase the price if the demand's there for the vehicle?
I mean, especially with them, because their whole problem is the dealers were marking it up, and so if the MSRP just goes up, then it makes it easier for them everybody to share in the more profits. So I don't know. All right, so at this point, I want to thank everybody out there for joining us for this earnings call discussion, and we'll catch you guys on the Tesla Life show on Wednesday. And Mark started going. So you want to tell them about the 200 episode special?
Sure. Was you talking to me or Omar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
you're the one who's there every day.
That's right. Yeah. So our 200th episode is coming up, and Mark has extended an offer to viewers of the show. So contact him, and you can message him. The best way to get a hold of him is through Twitter. So DM him on Twitter and say, "Hey, I've got a camera and I'm Mike, and I would love to be on your special 200th episode of the Tesla Life."
Yep. And either headphones or some earbuds. That way we don't get an echo, because that gets fun to deal with.
Yeah. So we'll technically check you out ahead of time so that we make sure it's all high quality the way we want it, and If you don't have the gear, well, that's okay. Well, then you can just enjoy watching the show instead of participating.
Absolutely. And then still have the chat and everything. So you want to plug your stuff there?
Sure. Yeah, so I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. My latest post, I just rolled over 40,000 miles in my Tesla.
Oh, wow.
It's by no means a record, but they're my 40,000 miles.
Yes.
And so I have a battery degradation chart on how that's performed, and some clips from some of my road trips. And so check it out, carswithcords.net. And I'm also with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. Thanks.
And what's the mission there? We're going to bring about a future free.
Yes, a future free from fossil fuels. And on that, we talked about trucks. Daimler is working with my local utility, Portland General, and they've established what they call Charging Island. And
Yes.
it's going to be for electric semis to charge up. Nice high voltage to get them back on the road quickly. It's a cool program that's happening around here.
And they even designed it intelligently. Omar and I we were looking at the picture, and like they had the the place you could pull off, and then they had the convenience area that you could go buy the food, get a shower, do whatever you need to do. And I have high hopes for that, and I hope that Tesla does the same or better. And we'll see how that goes. Omar, what have you got for us today?
Oh, well, just going back to what we were just talking about, I like the way they designed the stalls as well on that.
Yeah.
So that they can pull in, they charge up, and then they can pull out so that they don't have to back up or do any tricky maneuvers. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, hopefully it becomes a model for electric semi charging around the entire world.
Yes. And then we'll definitely have cool installs for consumers too, not just for big trucks, because you got Cybertruck and all these pickup trucks we were just talking about. They're going to be hauling stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming with us. Down below is a join button. If you click that, it'll help us out. You don't have to; it's completely optional. But what it does, it allows us to take care of these subscriptions and the gear and make this all a better experience for you. We'll catch you on the flip side.